A $26 trillion with a T dollar tax hike. That, according to our next guest, who's on that debt commission, New Hampshire Senator Judge Gregg joins us now. So $26 trillion, that's a big number. What are you talking about when you say $26 trillion?
I've never used that number.
Okay, then let's do this.
I don't know where it comes from. It's an absurd number.
Okay, then let's do this. What do you think is going to go on? Right now we're at $13.3 or $4 trillion in debt. Mr. Obama says we're not going to raise taxes on anyone making less than $250,000. Where does that debt start to close? How do we start to close that gap?
Well, you've got to reduce spending. If you look at what's driving the debt, the federal government has historically spent about 20% of GDP. That's since the end of World War II. Now we're spending 24% of GDP because of the explosion of the government in the last year and a half. And when you factor in what's going to happen as the health care bill comes online, we're looking at government spending going up to 26 to 27% of GDP. Those aren't sustainable numbers. Revenues have historically been about 18.2% of GDP. It's projected they're going to actually grow to about 20% of GDP. Well, in the next 2 or 3 years. If we can get our spending back down to its historic levels, then we can close this gap and we can start to reduce the deficits and reduce the debt. But this really is a spending problem primarily, and the numbers reflect that.
Senator, just take a listen to Robert Gibbs yesterday on raising taxes.
The president believes that raising taxes on the middle class during this economic time would not make a lot of economic sense.
So what should the debt commission... Go ahead, sir. Go ahead.
Raising taxes on anyone at this time would be a mistake, and especially raising capital gains rates and dividends rates, which are basically the funds which are used to create jobs by capital formation. So I don't think a tax increase makes any sense at this time.
And real quickly, less than about a half minute or so, when is the debt commission going to make its recommendation to the president?
December 1st, and then it has to be voted on before the Congress leaves on January 1st. So it's going to be a very interesting time in December.
I'll say, because that could be lame duck for Congress as well, right?
It'd well be a lame duck session, no question about that.
All right, Senator Judge Gregg, thanks for joining us this morning.
Appreciate your time.